Hello, hello, YouTube. Did you see me parry the wrong guy? That was loads of fun. I showed that clip to my wife, and she said I was a terrible invader because I didn't get any kills. Her treacherous honesty aside, meet Iron Oswin, my 40-40-40 build. 40 vigor, 40 strength, all encapsulated at level 40. And there's a couple things we do to hit that. For one, we start off as the hero class. Then we have the Star Scourge Medallion, we have the Radigan Sword Seal, and the Omen Smirk Mask. Between those two talismans and the mask, we get 12 points of strength, which lets us hit 40. And then if we use the ability on the Oath of Vengeance, Ash of War on the Grafted Greatsword, we get 5 more strength. And our Flask of Wondrous Fizz gives us 10 more strength. So I think our base strength is 28, and then with all those buffs together, we get 55. And then whatever that is when you get 50% more when you two-hand. That's a lot of strength, all at level 40. Does it mean much? No. The scaling's pretty bad at level 40, but we're having fun with it anyways. Also, I thought it was neat, I just ran into What's-Her-Face and Shadowheart from Baldur's Gate 3, the hit 2023 RPG. Isn't that neat? Look at that. That's how you do a cosplay. I appreciate those two. I never played the game. Everyone and their dog keeps telling me it's a phenomenal game, and it must have had an impact because those two decided to cosplay as characters from that game that I only recognize from cultural osmosis. Now this current invasion, the one that you're seeing right now, is me coming clean. I made an oopsie as an invader. I didn't mean to, but I did, and I'm gonna show it off to you. But first you get to see a hit, followed crouch poke, followed up with a R2 roll catch. Oh, it's delicious. How cool would it be if I could just capitalize and just finish him off right then and there? I would be so cool. But, you know, I'm still learning the roll catches. I'm still trying to get the game feel down, trying to get everything in order. I got a new controller recently. It was a gift from my wife, very kind of her. And I like it. It's different. It's, what is it, the Razer Wolverine V2 Chroma. It's a little too new age for me, but it's nicer than a basic controller. And I've noticed the first big change is that the sensitivity is higher on the control sticks by default, and I don't do the baby jumps nearly as often anymore. A baby jump being when you do a little hop instead of a full leap when you need to attack somebody. And so I've been having a good time with that, but the thing I mess up on, it's coming up here. The reason I need to come clean and be honest with you, dear viewer, is I made a mistake. And this is a mistake that, well, I consider a mistake, but other people, they consider it a boon, a win, especially in older FromSoft games. And what I did wrong is I decided to hide in this other room when dealing with this group. I just needed a little more time, you see. I just wanted to heal, you see. I just wanted to reset and prepare for the worst. And so I run into this other room, and I dart around poor Alexander and the host. Oh, the poor host. He didn't know, or he did not care, but he just keeps swinging at me, and hitting Alexander in the process. Look at the poor pot boy. He's a shuddering with every hit that's going his way. And I turn around, and Alexander the Great Pot Warrior is aggroed on the host. Oh, how unfortunate. But you remember that shield I equipped earlier? You might have missed it because I've been blabbering on. I still have that shield. Swing. There's a parry for you. It feels nice when the first parry you throw out connects. It makes you feel like you're cool. It makes you feel like you're on top of the world, like you might understand how the game is working. Do I, personally? Heck no. Heck no at all. I don't know how any of this works. But I am terribly aware of how little I know, so that's got to be worth something. New thought for you, dear viewer. Some of you might be wondering why the heck I'm playing at the level 40 bracket. Well, for one, I've never done it before. And two, I'm playing on a new controller. It feels alien. My swaps are off. And they're already not great, but they got worse because the start and select buttons are in different places. It takes time to correct the muscle memory, and level 40 is a much less deadly bracket. Now, some of you might think I'm picking on noobs, and to some degree I am, but at the same time, these noobs also have up to 24 levels on me and higher upgraded weapons. So, you know, it's give and take. There's always a little bit of balance to it, but it was a great opportunity for me to practice and to strive to get my timings back. My hope is that with a new, better controller and with some time and dedication, I could hopefully hit a new skill ceiling. That would be awful neat for me. Another grand boon of the level 40 bracket is that you get new places to invade. This is one of the main reasons for jumping between brackets so much. The variety of setting really does it for me. Meta level is nice and all, but sometimes you get sick of seeing nothing but Castle Soul, the Haligtree, and that corridor right before Radigan. Oh, here's another thing I forgot to mention. Whenever you have levels, you get flat defense depending on what you are leveling up. And it seems to be the case that even virtual levels that you get from equipment and talismans, you know, armor, Physic Flask, the buff from the Grafted Greatsword, all of these also contribute to your flat defenses, which means the Grafted Greatsword not only gives you big damage resistance while the Endure effect is going on, but for the full minute after it, while you have those bonus stats, you tend to have more flat resistances. Or at least that's what it feels like, because I noticed people were doing bad damage, and don't get me wrong, the damage is bad all around at the level 40 bracket. But I noticed it was especially bad even when people seemed to have finely tuned builds, or people had overleveled phantoms. It would do a little less damage, though don't get me wrong, overleveled phantoms still hit really hard. Also, I would be curious to know if the Oath of Vengeance is different from Endure in any other way besides the stat bonus. Because look at how little this guy's chipping me for, even while he's hitting me with Stormcaller. I mean, it could be just Endure plus stats, or it could be a stronger Endure. Does it last longer? I haven't looked into the nitty-gritty details. If you know the differences between Oath of Vengeance and Endure, tell me in the comments, because I'm likely going to forget to look it up by the time I finish recording audio for this video. Now, across my varied PvP experiences in Elden Ring, I've noticed two major camps that the average player tends to fall into. Either they are so incredibly skittish that they run from everything, and you can't really bait them into any big moves, or they have absolutely no regard for their personal safety. And of course, there are the outliers who, know how to tango and be defensive, but also be offensive at the appropriate times. Those players, of course, exist. But I'm just talking about the average people, the people who are here for the RPG adventure experience. I guess you could call them tourists, or just new players. As a consequence of that, it was really hard to hit people with waves of darkness. They just naturally hang back, as if I just had this aura of damage that they couldn't even approach. Now, this could also be a consequence of the fact that this build is pretty tanky for level 40, as on top of level 40 already being a low damage bracket. So maybe they saw my relatively high damage for the bracket compared to how little damage they scraped me with, and therefore played incredibly defensively because trades just simply weren't worth it. Of course, the natural caveat to any of this is skill issue on my part. An interesting part of playing such a specialized build at such a low level is that you really have to cut corners. I really had to play the hero class because I really needed to cut stats from lots of places if I wanted 40 vigor and 40 strength at level 40. It's just having a similar stat spread as a vagabond easily added 5 to 6 levels because of the levels that are in the dexterity stat. This means I can't have nearly as many fun toys or utility weapons as I would on a normal meta-level build or even sub-meta level build. And so I have to use things like the jar cannon instead of a great bow. But I like the jar cannon. In fact, when I use the jar cannon and I play patiently with it, I feel like Saint Riot at times, a YouTuber who makes grand content. You should check him out if you haven't already. In fact, he's kind of inspiring. He does everything terribly honestly, he plays with what he wants when he wants, and he doesn't care what the meta is. He knows what the meta is, but he just doesn't care, and you gotta appreciate a fellow like that. It's unfathomably based. At least I think that's what the kids would be saying these days. I just really appreciate the patient play style, and I need to work on that, because, I get big numbers and big damage brain sometimes, and the tunnel vision during invasions is very real when you're trying to work up the skill set and the experience and the understanding that, hey, it's just a video game. Sure, it's PvP, but it's just a game. Just play it, just have fun, It doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Try to enjoy yourself while you're doing it. And look at this goat roller on the colossal hammer. Cracks me up. Oh, he's getting out-traded, though. Oath of Vengeance sure is mean. It has to be different from Endure. I just don't know how, other than the stats. Maybe 40 virtual levels makes that much of a difference on flat defense. I don't know. It's probably does. That's a lot of levels. But back to my main point of playing patiently. Sure, technical skill and reaction speed, all very, very important things to playing an action RPG. Look at that, I almost died. That was close. But being patient has been something that the previous Souls games have heavily rewarded you for. Being patient, looking for your openings, and of course applying knowledge and keeping a cool head was, at least for many of the games, a little more important than technical skill and reaction speed. Now, Elden Ring being faster than those other Souls games, more reaction speed and technical skill does help and is fantastic. But if you know more and you're willing to play patiently and play smart and keep a cool head, you can make wise choices that don't necessarily require the best reaction speed or technical skill. And I've been starting to see that as I play with other tools that maybe aren't necessarily meta, and just take my time in invasions. In fact, I have one clip, I'm not going to show it in this video, it's like 8.5 minutes, versus these two Chinese players in that darn cave that's on the northern edge of the Aeonian swamp. And I'm just at the top, and I'm using a jar cannon, and I felt so much like Saint Riot. I'm not sure if I'll make a video with it. It might be a little too boring, but I felt like him during it, because that's the thing he does, is he plays patiently, and he whittles down his opponents before they get to him with the jar cannon or whatever is necessary. And when you're fighting people with 250, 300 ping, lots of latency basically, it's nice to chip them down beforehand, because your real hits aren't going to happen that often, especially if they spam roll, so better weaken them where you can. And watch this. This is an Iron Oswin moment. Look at that, just in their face, barely didn't get bled, traded 2 whole hits and got a double kill. And that parry I jokingly said was, or flashed on screen that it was a first try parry, I think that was the same guy. Poor lad. Also, this didn't occur to me until right now, but all those virtual levels that Oath of Vengeance gives you probably doesn't just give you flat defense. I imagine it gives you some resistances. That feels appropriate. I don't know if resistances just come from armor or if they also come from level. I feel like you get some from levels. That sounds right. But I genuinely don't recall off the top of my head with 100% certainty, but maybe Oath of Vengeance does give you that extra little bit of meter before the bleed proc. And that's cool, that's neat. It's a lot of stuff you get from that little Oath of Vengeance. Oh, another utility you get from Oath of Vengeance is because it gives you +5 to every stat. You could use that and then use some low-end incantations that you normally don't have the faith for, but you will have the faith for the next minute. It's like the more FP costly version of just swapping a talisman to get 5 points of faith. You can just Oath of Vengeance and then use your talisman. Or your catalyst, your casting catalyst. It's very silly. You could get expensive bestial vitality at the cost of I don't want to swap a talisman. It's not better, it's just a thing you can do. This invasion right here is an excellent showcase on why it's so very important to level Vigor, because look at that, I just did one running attack and he loses half of his health. I think all of them have really low Vigor, and I get it when you're starting a new character and you're getting all this equipment and all these weapons and, you know, tools for the adventuring. You want to wield them, and then you see what stat they use and you go, oh, I want this weapon to do the big damage. And it feels like they're always neglecting Vigor, and I don't know where their points are. Is it mana? Does everybody just dump mind first thing? I don't know, because when they do hit me, and it'll happen, they don't hit for very much. Do you see that little scrape on my backside? That was a pittance. That's awful. That's so sad. But they're supposed to be around my level, if not higher, because that's the bracket. And look at that, I'm just making these hits, making these trades. It makes me look like I know what I'm doing. I'm only vaguely aware of what I'm doing, and I can just make trades that do big damage, just keep doing these light attacks, and they're gone. And I felt bad for this guy. His friends are dead. What's the plan now? Give up, of course. There's no other recourse. And so I shared in his grief for a moment. His friends are dead and gone, and so I decided to be nice to him and to give to him a little boon to help him on his adventure. Maybe, boost him along his way, boost his morale. Not too much, not enough to break the game, but a definite boon, and he either didn't see it or didn't care, didn't trust. And unfortunately, he took the coward's way out. What a way to go. It's so sad every time I see it. And you really do hate to see it. In this video game, suicide is the temporary solution to the temporary problem, which is me. I'm the problem. You see that Scythe Boy's cute little ambush? I appreciate that. It reminds me of my first playthrough I did with my brother, where I barely knew what was going on, and so did he. And yet we challenged invaders, and sometimes we won, doggone it, and it felt great. But you can't trade with Iron Oswin swinging the Oath of Vengeance. Or sorry, swinging the Grafted Greatsword that has the Oath of Vengeance. But I better wrap up the video, otherwise I'll be left stuttering. But thanks for joining me. It's a good time having you here, and I hope to make more content for you in the future, hopefully more frequently. And look at this charge jar too. Mwah, delicious. Take care now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.